Hey, so in this video we'll be deploying React app to the AWS Amplify, and we'll use the AWS CDK to do that. So let's just jump straight into the coding. So let's start by creating our project folder. We can name it maybe React AWS deployment. You can name it whatever you want. So let's move to that directory. So now within this folder we will create our example React app, and we can use the create React app. Let's do npx create React app. I'm gonna name it maybe frontend. You can name it whatever you need. And let's do TypeScript. So that will just create our example, kind of testing apps, which we then just use to deploy to Amplify via CDK. Right, so now we can start to work on our CDK code. So we're gonna create another directory, and this time I'm gonna call it infra. You can call it CDK, again, it's up to you. So to initialize a new CDK app, we need to run CDK init app, and then we do language TypeScript. And this will create a number of files and folders to help us organize the source code for our AWS CDK app. So if we go to infra/lib, you can see the file called infrastack. It's kind of like a boilerplate file for your first stack, and we can also reuse this file. We don't have to create a new one from the scratch, and we can just add our code to it. So I'll just delete the comments, and I can also clean up the bin/infra, so I'll just delete the comments. And we can also rename that file to be something, because we're gonna work with Amplify, so let's call it just Amplify stack. Then we can rename the stack itself, and don't forget to update the imports in the bin. Like this. Okay, so before we start writing our CDK code here, let's just install dependency which we'll need, and it's just one, and it's called AWS CDK / AWS / Amplify alpha. Okay, so now that's installed, we can start writing our build config for the Amplify. Let's just start by creating our Amplify name, Amplify app name. I'll call it my React app, just as an example. Then we're gonna create a new Amplify app. and that's gonna take this Amplify app name and then our config, and this app, it's gonna come from the package we just installed. We just add it to the imports here at the top. So with the config, the first thing we want to do, we're gonna add some environment variables, and it's just gonna be one, and it's gonna be called Amplify monorepo uproot, because we're doing monorepo here, so we need to specify this to let the Amplify know where to look for, you know, for the React app in order to build it successfully. In my case, that's gonna be React AWS deployment and then slash the front end, so that's where the actual React app lives. It might be different in your configuration, in your folder structure, so please just make sure that these things are, you know, set correctly. Next thing we want to do source code provider, and we're gonna do GitHub source code provider, and we're gonna add owner. The owner, that's gonna be your you know, your GitHub username, and then you need to specify the repository, which in my case it's gonna be called YouTube, but again it will be different in your specific case. And then we need to provide the OAuth token, that's gonna be secret value, that's secret manager, and mine is called GitHub token. And if you don't have your GitHub token set yet, it's very simple. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. Pretty much you just go to your GitHub settings, create a new token, and then you store that value within your secrets manager in the AWS console. So now we can do our build spec. So build spec itself is going to come from the AWS code build. And we're gonna do from object to YAML. Version can be 1.0. And then we're gonna define our application. So the way you do it, you have to do it as an array of objects, and then the object, the first object is gonna be your actual app. Then you need to do front end. Then within front end, there's a few things that we need to add. So you can specify the phases. The first one we want to do is going to be the pre-build phase. And what we're going to do, we want to run the command npm CI. Then for the build phase, we wanna run, and you can specify any commands that you need to run. It depends on the complexity of your app, but this is just an example, so I'm just doing kind of like the bare minimum, so we can see how the deployment through the CDK works. For the build, we want to do npm run build, and then we want to specify the actual build folder. So the way you do it, it's you need to specify the artifacts. That's going to be an object where you specify the base directory. And that is going to be the build. Because that's going to be the actual build. Once we run npm run build within the front end directory, there's going to be created a new folder which is going to be called build. And we want to include all the files. And then we can also do cache. And this is just, you know, to speed up any other builds that gonna happen after our initial build. So when you do your initial build, it's gonna cache. We're gonna cache node modules, for example, and so when you run the next build, it's not gonna take that long. It's there to speed up your builds. And so the way you do it, you just specify the path. So we want to do node modules and then everything within that folder. And the last thing we want to do, we want to specify the uproot, which in my case it's gonna be React AWS deployment / frontend. What you can do, you can also specify your main branch. You know, in your case it might be the main branch itself. So the way you do it, it's you do amplify app that add branch, and then in your case it's probably going to be main, but because I already have many other branches that I'm working within this directory, I'm gonna have to do you know, React AWS deployment, because that's what my branch is gonna be called for this tutorial. Okay, so we can save that, and I think that should be everything. And we can actually, so now what you need to do first, you need to commit and push your code to the GitHub, and then after that we'll do the deploy command. But first we need to, you know, push the code to GitHub, so Amplify have something to work with. So let's just do, I don't know, init, and I'm gonna create my new branch. So that's gonna be React AWS deployment. Then I'm just gonna push it. Okay, so now we are ready to just run our CDK deploy command. And because I have multiple profiles on this machine, I'll need to specify my profile as well. And you make sure you are within your, you know, CDK directory, in which, you know, in my case it's gonna be infra. I'm just gonna specify my profile, but you might not need to do that if you only have one profile, one default profile. Okay, so that's now deployed. So let's have a look into our Amplify in the AWS console. And so you can see it already refreshed. So here is my React app, and I'm just gonna manually trigger the first build. Okay, so the build and deployment was finished successfully, so let's just try to visit our app. There is your Amplify URL, and there you can see our example app running on the Amplify. And so whenever you create a new change and you push to your main branch, deployment will automatically kick off, and your app will be redeployed. Okay guys, so I'll leave it here. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this video was helpful. If yes, then please just hit the like button, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.